Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out episode 13 of Summertime Rendering, and we have entered the 5th loop, which I feel like we've done more. I feel like we've gone through more loops than we actually have, just because it's been a bit of a wild ride with this whole show, but we learned a lot of different things in the last episode about this Hine god that has been living on this island, is like the god of the island, and how she likes to like eat people who are dead, so that was like a whole thing, and I feel like opens up like a can of worms of like any kind of mysterious death that has happened on the island. I'm suspicious that it is because they've been turned into food for this god, so that's like a thing that I feel like we're gonna get to. I feel like Shinpei's family dying has some kind of connection to it, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, we're gonna find out, but that's kind of my prediction at this moment, because we had some secrets and weird energy around that when Shinpei had like a moment of remembering his parents and what happened to them, so I feel like we're gonna loop back to that. Incorrect use of the word loop at that point, but I've got to be careful with my terminology, but we're gonna come back to that at some point. We also had some setup with Shinpei's powers, of them being explained, of how his eye like sees different dimensions and stuff, and it's like rendering the world that they're currently in, because he can see lots of different possibilities and choose which one is going to be reality. But it was also kind of hinted at that the only reason he loops back when he dies is because he like loses his sense of himself, and it becomes kind of like a instinctual reaction to what's happening, which means that like probably he can control it more consciously. Like he does not have to die to control it at some point. I feel like maybe we're going to get to that. It might be further on in the series near the end where he really gets a grip of his abilities and starts to master them a lot more, and becomes pretty scary, because we had the kind of drop of it being like a god-like ability. So I feel like that is going to set up some stuff about us going head to head with a god that might be controlling the island and wants to kill everyone at a festival, maybe. But we had them looping back and Shinpei taking Ushio, or Shadow Ushio, back with him, which I feel like maybe was kind of a subconscious thing before when they both looped back in the previous one, but now it's like an intentional thing where he like could see her in the in-between of those two loops, and he intentionally wanted to bring her along. So it feels like he's further and further developing his abilities as we go through. But we have a new loop, we have new information, and I feel like it's gonna be a moment as we kind of figure out the footing of where we're starting off at and what we want to do now that we have some new information. So let's get into episode 13 in 3, 2, 1, go. 5th loop. 22nd. Yeah, they're gonna have to explain the whole "I'm friends with one of the shadows" thing. Oh, she's still kind of figuring out the whole looping thing. A few times, yeah. You have this thing where you get shot. It's unfortunate, really. This dude just like still is ready. Nope. Please share. See? I said that before. I'm like, it seems like the same color as her eyes. Are we sharing memories like we did before? Oof, I like the reflection in her glasses effect. Thank you for agreeing with me that currency is made up. The video game graphics. You need a plan though. Oh yeah. Ooh, new opener. But we had where Lucio was like reversing the corruption back at Heine. I'm excited about a new opener. I like the drawings. When the like pieces of glass with like lots of different versions of them. I feel like this opener is far more like anime sound to it than the previous one, which makes me feel like there's gonna be some pretty intense action going on in this later half. Oh, there's a spider one? Who is the friend? Still suspicious of her. I feel like they can probably rally her to their side though. Oh, Shadow. Oh, God. A whole 5 minutes? Don't share. Shadows. The judgment there. Ugh, don't show me food. Food in anime always looks amazing. It's really unfair. I like this. But we had a revelation. I find it really interesting that they have to like leave messages, like voice messages for each other. Ugh, yeah. I like her in disguise outfit. Apparently. Something to keep in mind. Okay, so we got a storage limit. Why do I feel like this won't work? Because I feel like something's gonna change. Yeah. Because if you can remember what happened to the previous loop, including Uchiho Shadow, then how come Heine can't remember what happened in previous loops? I'm just saying. Yep. Oh, hello. He's like overly polite. He, they, it, overly polite. It's unnerving. Mm-hmm. This is what I was saying. It's not gonna be enough. Ooh. For a second, I thought it was. Jeez. It was a really fast loop. It's very weird that they live in an existence where it's like, I'm sorry that I beheaded you. So maybe there's more of a connection between them? I feel like that's a bit of an assumption, a bit of a assumption to make about the power set here. Where did we end up this time? Ooh, we looped back farther. He has like the kind of like aura around him though, so I feel like it's not like a proper he's looped back. It's like he's seeing a memory play, kind of like we had with Ushio. Oh, oh. I love the stern logic. Oh. She's awkward. We like it. Is that Shinpei's father? Oh, the fond smile though. Ooh, interesting that they researched like marine life. We've had lots of connections between that and the shadows. Oh, is this Heine? It's a good point though to say like where did you meet someone new in such a small community? Ugh, seeing Shinpei's parents made me like a little bit more emotional than I was prepared for. Yeah, y'all should be worried. I mean, it's sort of haunted. The shadows are very creepy, have some ghost-like qualities. I'm worried about how serene this seems right now. I'm real worried about like why a god would want to be friends with her. You know what I mean? I was definitely not expecting the fifth loop to be that quick, but I think it makes a lot of sense, right? They were like, let's do this exactly the way that we normally would, but we'll change up how we approach it, especially since we know that this Shiori shadow is actually Heine. Let's attack now, and we feel like we have the element of surprise that it wouldn't work because if Shinpei's powers, like abilities to loop, are from shadows, we're like from Heine, and Ushio, then why would we assume that he's the only one that has figured out how to do that, right? Like, we're going up against a god. I feel like we haven't internalized what that means. We're like, oh, she's weak, she can't walk around, she has limited power when she's using this shiori kind of like vessel, right? But it's still a god, you know, like it's still a god that we're going up against. I feel like a weakened god is still significantly more powerful than the average human or even the average shadow. So like maybe put that into a little bit of perspective. But I love that we're getting some flashbacks. I love that we're getting to see the beginning of the story, at least with the characters that we have right now, like the living characters of what has been happening with the shadows, and getting to see sort of what happens. It's making me a little bit emotional because I know that like Hizuru is gonna lose her twin brother, and I know that Shinpei's parents don't make it. I feel like it's gonna be connected to the shadows because we're bringing them up right as we're getting into, you know, this time where we had Hizuru's brother die because of the shadows. I'm just like, I'm seeing some connections. I don't know how far back. They said 14 years. I don't know how long it has been since Shinpei's parents died, but I guess we'll have to figure that out at some point. I feel like we're gonna get to something like really, really sad. I don't know if I'm like emotionally ready for that, but it definitely feels like a bit of a breath after everything that's happened, when we've had so much like lore building up and so much world building stuff, to be like, all right, let's dig a little bit more into the characters, right? Because we have so many characters in this series and we kind of have to go like quick succession through them because we have this like limited time frame, and there's like looping where you have to like learn new stuff about people, but also like things change and like events and stuff, so it's hard to like keep track of like what is actually happening in that particular loop, especially since they like time jump over stuff. They're like, oh yeah, and then remember when that happened, and you're like, okay, but like from which loop? And they're like, the third loop. I'm like, okay. Like, you know, like it can get a little bit confusing. So I like taking a minute to be like, all right, let's just like build some character stuff and also give some backstory of like why the people who are going up against the shadows feel the way that they do and deal with the problem the way that they do. So I like that we're getting like a little bit of that, but I know that it's gonna break my heart at some point. So I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you know next time I post a summertime rendering reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!